Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we now bring you the final segment in today's edition of Cairo Local Time, and I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon by my guest here in the studio, the author and artist, Dr. Amal Seddik. She is a novelist and holds a PhD degree in business administration. She's also published several books, in addition to participating in numerous exhibitions of individual and collective visual art, another hobby that she has aside from writing. Dr. Amal, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on Cairo Local Time.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you very much, Doctor. First and foremost, talk to us about how you started writing. How did this discovery that you can write and publish novels come along, and what was your inspiration?
The first time I ever wrote was like when I was 6 years old, or maybe 8.
Wow.
I had a very good teacher, actually. She asked us to write like a composition or a small piece, imagining that we are an object. We could choose any objects, and so I chose a hat. And I started writing a story about a hat and how it moved from one head to another, and from one shop to another, and from one person to another. And I thought, oh wow, that's so exciting. And that's how I started. I mean, that was the first thing I ever wrote.
Okay, and now let's talk about your professional career as a writer. When did that start, and what was the first work that you published?
Children's books.
Okay.
I started with children's books. I wrote several. I wanted to write something that I wanted my children to read. And so I wrote something that had a little bit of history in it, and it had children moving from one place to another in history. In different and interacting with different people, like Khediwi Ismail, like Hatshepsut.
So they learn about
Hatshepsut. So they learn about history, but using a story. That was the first time I wrote, and then I moved to novels.
So what was your first novel? What was the topic?
Its name was called Yom Min al-Ayyam, which and everything that happened in the novel happened in one day, and I wanted to say that even one day can change your life. That was the theme of the whole thing. And then it had another part 2, because I felt that these people that I created in the story, I needed to talk more about them, and so I created like a part 2 for the story.
So, Doctor, how different is it to write for kids and to write for adults? How challenging is it to write for children? Is it more challenging, or is it easier in your
Actually, it's more challenging to write for children.
Really?
Yeah, because you need to say things that they would understand and that they would fancy, and it's not really in your tongue. You have to speak something like in their tongue. So it's a little bit hard. The older you get, it's harder. It gets harder. Yeah. But in a story or in a novel, you have a lot of space to write whatever feelings you have and thoughts and all that. It's really very different. Writing for children is different from writing for novels, because writing novels, I mean, because children you have to concentrate on the theme, or focus on the theme itself, what you want to say out of the story. The message, yeah, exactly. But in novels, you can also express yourself and express your feelings, express your thoughts, and it's not only about the theme of the whole story.
So what is the favorite novel, your favorite novel that you've written?
My last one.
What is it about?
It's called Dancing on Ropes. It's called Raqs ala al-Hibal. I felt that I developed, my language skills. I developed my storytelling skills, and actually, it's something good that from one story to another, you develop your skill. This is my 6th novel. And I've tried throughout my career to always move one step forward in each novel. I hope I did in this novel.
So what are the topics that you discuss? Are they fiction? Is it purely fiction, or is there a part that comes from reality? Are you influenced by the social conditions, for example, in the country, the political arena? How, give me an example of the influences that affect your novels.
The last one was influenced very much by what's happening now. Actually, it summarizes the period from 25th of January until now, up till now, and what's happening. The one before it discussed the problem of Syrian people coming to Egypt, and also the concept of the extremist who, the person, the main character actually killed someone, and so I wanted to discuss what he thinks and why he did that, and what causes people to do such things, to go there, exactly. So, and the main theme was that if we really succeed in demolishing poverty and sickness, and I mean different things, we will be able to overcome these very extremists.
Dr. Amal, let me ask you how you see the influence of literature on social problems. So, on the one hand, you derive some of your stories from the social situation. Now, the other, how do you think literature can work to influence our social status and our social lives? Do you think a book has that power where if you read a story, you can learn something, you can change something, whether it's in yourself or in your community or in your society at large?
That's the main thing that literature does. I mean, if it doesn't do that, there will be no use for literature. It's like a mirror for the society, and everyone who reads any piece of literature should see something, or it should develop something in him, and that's the more you touch people's lives, the more you the more successful you become.
Doctor, in 2015 you wrote Dima, a bold and emotional novel reviewing different characters. Tell me a bit about these characters and how you came about them.
Dima was a Syrian who came to Egypt and did not have anything, did not have money, did not have passport, did not have any papers, and so she was in a real big problem, and her problem started developing throughout the novel. At the same time, she met this guy who was an extremist, and throughout the novel, it shows the journey, which is like a parallel journey of both characters, which are both attacked by all kinds of corruption and everything. So that was the that was
so
the story.
Was that,
and it was changed into a film, a script.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called El Taman. Yusuf acted the man's character, and Siba Mubarak was the lady.
Okay, that's wonderful. How I always wanted to ask a writer about this. Sometimes when I read a novel and then I see the film, I'm like, the film is terrible, the novel is great. So how do you as a writer feel when your work and your piece of literature is taken and put onto the screen, for example? Do you feel that it loses some of its value, or do you feel it takes on a new shape, or are you fine with the way it's translated on screen?
That's exactly why I wrote the script.
Okay,
so that no one else writes it.
That helps.
Yeah, it's different because I mean, when you're reading a novel, actually, you can your imagination works also. But when you actually see the picture on the screen, there's no thinking about it. That's the girl and that's the boy and that's what they're doing, and so you don't even there's no imagination about it. But that's a big difference. But usually people enjoy the novels much more than they enjoy the movie.
That's always the
case. That's always the case.
So let me ask you a bit about the representation of women in Egyptian literature. This is always an issue of contention. Sometimes women, especially Egyptians, for example, in literature are presented as weak and docile and third-grade citizens, not even second-class citizens, etc. And sometimes, no, they're strong and they're the breadwinners and they are the fighters in the family. How do you see the two different depictions of Egyptian women specifically in Egyptian literature?
That's one thing that actually made me write in the first place, because because whenever I wrote, I read a story or a novel or anything, I thought, what are these women? I mean,
who are these women?
Who are they? I mean, they don't think like that. They're either whore or, sometimes, or as they're just running after men, or things like that. Afterwards, I started to think, no, I have to show the woman the actual Egyptian woman, the normal woman that we see in the streets every day, that we see in our work, and that's what I try to do in my different novels. And in the first two novels, all the characters are actually women, and most of the characters are women. In my last one, it was more like the revolutionary woman who wants to work and who wants to prove that she is just as capable as men in doing anything and all that.
Do you find that there are sufficient Egyptian women authors? Do you see?
No, I don't think there are. Actually, there are very few. Because even the famous ones, I discovered that they're not Egyptians in the first place. Like there's a Saudi Arabian and there's someone from the Emirate, but from Egypt there are very few women.
Why do you think this is so, Doctor?
I don't know, but I think maybe the main problem is actually the women have to do loads of things at home. So it's besides their work, and so really they don't have much time to maybe read and then start to write or start to think. A large portion of their life is really taken in all that and all these kinds of activities.
Since you've written for children before, how do you think, what is the importance of books for children in your opinion? And do you think books help kids develop their imagination, their creativity, as well as their writing skills? Do you think?
Yes, and I think so, definitely. But the problem is in our education that they don't encourage kids to read a lot. I mean, in the British system, for example, they ask the children to read a book every day and write like a small book review about it the next day. They're small books. Maybe they will write when they're very young. They could write like 2 or 3 sentences about each book. But as they get older, they write more, or maybe they write more critical reviews. But this teaches the kids to actually read. In Egypt, we don't have that. I mean, if you ask a guy in the secondary school, for example, did you ever read a story for Naguib Mahfouz? He might say, who's Naguib Mahfouz? So
even though they're very good at memorizing things.
Yeah, they just give them things to memorize, but they don't encourage them to actually read. That's the problem. And so now when we say that, we're a country that does not read, I mean, so we were not educated to read in the first place.
I just want to ask you about younger children. For example, you said you wrote things that you'd like your children to read. How important are the illustrations that we see in books? Like, for example, my son was like, where's the pictures? I mean, yeah, he's interested in the story, but he also wants to see the picture. So how important are illustrations to get maybe the message of the book across to the children?
I think they're important. I mean, I tried in 4 of my books. I tried to do like illustrations without any colors. It's just black illustrations so that the children would color them.
Okay.
And then when I went to like the publisher, he said, "Where are the colors? The children like colors." So I said, I want them to be creative and actually color the book. so
they do something. Yes.
But they were very surprised. But actually, I think that we can use it. We can use illustrations in many different ways. Like we can encourage them to draw something. We can encourage them also to color, or maybe express the story in their way. Things like that. Besides just showing the story in illustrations.
Are you planning on writing more children's books anytime soon?
No, I think it's. I only did that like for the first 2 years when I started writing. And that was like many years ago, like 10 years ago or something. When I started writing novels, I thought that's, it's totally different. It opens a new world for me. So,
all right, that was a phase. So what are your new writings in 2017? Are you working on anything now?
I'm working on a movie, actually.
Okay.
Because
you're writing the script, or you're writing the whole story?
Writing the script.
Okay.
Yeah.
For one of your books or someone else?
No. Another script. And this would be like my 3rd movie in cooperation with the director I work with, Mr. Hisham Aysari.
Is it different to write scripts? Like to put everything in words is not like when you describe her emotions, for example, in the book.
Yeah.
Is it difficult to get that across?
It's different because you have to be briefer. I mean, whatever you say, it has to be very brief. Like in 2 minutes, you have to show this and this and this and this. It's much more brief, but it takes shorter time. It takes much shorter time because you don't have to like review and look at the language and look at the beauty of the language and all that. You don't have to do that. But you have to get the characters to show what they really are through dialogue and through their movements and something like that. For example, if you want to say someone is greedy, you cannot say he's greedy.
Yes.
You have to create a scene and a certain action he has to do so that people will see that he's greedy. So it's kind of different.
So how much do you interact, not just with the director, but with the actual actors and actresses? Do you have any sit-down sessions? Do you tell them, for example, I mean here you need to be emotional or greedy, or does this all come across in your writing?
Both.
Okay.
You first have to write it in the writing itself, in the script itself, but when you actually meet the actors, when you start shooting and all that, I mean, even before shooting, when you're preparing for the movie, you have to tell them what you think, and you have to discuss things with them, because sometimes, for example, they feel that this piece of dialogue is not them, so you have to kind of change what you think, or maybe reach a certain compromise. This does happen. It usually happens. Except, I mean, for example, in movies, it happens more than in serials, because in serials it's very long. They shoot like 30 hours. It's different. They have to abide to the script. But in movies, it takes a lot more preparation, and you sit with the character. And sometimes, I mean, one of the movies I worked on, the character changed. I mean, the actor changed, and so I had to actually change the script because the character was older, and so he would not say that kind of dialogue, and so you have to actually change the dialogue, for example.
That's very interesting. I also believe you have other talents besides writing, and you do a bit of artwork. What exactly do you do? What kind of art?
I like painting.
Okay.
I feel that it's something that really relaxes you, and is a lot of fun.
You've also taken part in several art exhibitions?
Yeah, actually I had two exhibitions. One of them was about Mohammed Munir's songs.
Okay.
So I got like I took parts of the songs and I tried to express them in a painting. Okay. I mean, each one of them in a painting. And so it was really fun. I also had another one that had, like, it was called Masks. And I was following the theme that people are always wearing masks. I mean, when they're speaking, when they're acting, and whatever. So that was also interesting. And then I participated in many other exhibitions. I feel it's something more of a therapy, actually. I mean, when you actually concentrate on the lines and the colors and all that, it's really so relaxing and nice.
Forget everything else.
Yeah, you actually forget everything else.
And are you planning on taking more part in, are there any upcoming paintworks or exhibitions?
Actually, I paint for myself, Yana. I paint, you know, to hang them on my wall.
Okay.
But I did sell a few paintings in my last exhibition, because I wanted to teach myself that I should be able to
let go of your work.
Let go of my work, exactly. Because at first I couldn't. I mean, I felt it's so valuable. I cannot give it for any price in the world. And then I decided to actually sell them so that I can give the money to charity. And I did give the money to charity, and so I felt good about it.
That's excellent. And you also teach on the side?
Yeah, I teach.
What do you teach?
I teach students, and it gives me a lot of experience, actually, because, you know, interacting with students, you interact with professors. I think that a writer has to have some kind of side work so that he interacts with real life.
And teaching business, is that related in any way to your books
No,
or your writing or your painting?
Actually not.
So how weird is it different to totally break away from what you're doing and go teach numbers or economy, or
I teach marketing, which is nice. And then one of my friends said, I mean, you teach marketing, why don't you try to market your books, for example? I said, okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So finally, I mean, we've talked about your writing, your teaching, and your art exhibitions. What other adventures do you have in store for yourself? What else do you wish to do? Do you wish, for example, to act? Do you have any acting ambitions, maybe?
No, I don't. But I did appear in two of my movies.
Okay.
One of them, I opened the door. Very
role.
important. And then in another, I actually answered the phone.
Okay.
But afterwards, one of my son's friends asked him, "Hey, is your mom into acting?" And so I thought, but my son came and asked me. I said, "No, I just came out so that because I'm the author of the movie." And so I decided, no, I don't want to. I don't want to do that anymore.
So, future projects in store for you, besides after finishing this current movie that you're working on?
Yeah, I will work on another novel. Yeah, I already started actually.
Do you have an idea in mind?
Yeah, I have an idea of mine.
Can you give us a peek preview? It's a little. Is it about women?
No, it's not a good idea to talk about your novels before you actually write them, because sometimes it changes, Kanan. Whatever you're thinking about changes when you actually start writing. That's one reason. So
okay, and finally, you know the issue of writer's block. A lot of people say, "Oh, I have writer's block. Oh, I can't decide on a good ending to the book." Have you ever experienced such dilemmas when you write?
A writer has to write every day. There is nothing called writer's block. Yani if you start working on whatever you're doing,
will get unblocked.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that you have to sit down. That's the problem. But when you're running around, going there and here and everything, you kind of get alienated from your work. You have to sit down for several hours every day and work on whatever you're doing. Or at least read. If you're not doing anything, you read, or start editing whatever you're doing, whatever you have done before. So that will get you in the mood.
Okay, well then that's very good advice to wrap up our interview. Dr. Amal Seddik, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on Cairo Local Time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And best of luck with the books and the novels and the storytelling as well. Thank you very much, Doctor. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of today's edition of Cairo Local Time. We do hope you have enjoyed it. Do join us again tomorrow with another crew. Till then, my name is Angela.